Shadowland. They've got fire, they've got style, they make chaos look worthwhile. Partners in crime, heartbeats aligned, together they're one of a kind. They're the couple that slays together, storming the world, it's now or never. Back to back, through thick and thin, in the game of life they always win. Blazing trails, leaving legends behind. Love so fierce, it's one of a kind. We're the couple that slays together. Oh.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Couple That Slays Together. I'm Katie.
Hey, and I'm Brandon. Katie, how you doing this week?
Doing good. Starting of a really busy season of life.
Yep.
The weather is getting, well, for the most part, nicer. It's kind of cruddy today, but that always means more stuff to do.
Yeah.
More places to go.
Interesting, brisk day. I think the high temperature was 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
And, gosh, just when you think we've seen summer, it tricks us, and here we are back feeling like fall.
Yep.
So.
What about you? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. You know, we've got a big, huge stack of videos and such this week, so been a little overwhelmed by that, but in a good way. So, yeah, doing good.
Well, today we have a very special interview to give to you all. We got to interview Sasha and Eli Craig.
Yeah, so Sasha Craig, Sasha, you might know her as Sasha Williams. She was the Yellow Lightspeed Ranger in season 8 of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. Been friends with her for years, and got to know her husband Eli, who you'll know as the writer and director, creator of all things Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He also wrote and directed Little Evil, that stars his mom, Sally Field, and Clancy Brown, and a bunch of others. And then the most recent one that's coming out today, May 9th, 2025, Clown in a Cornfield. I tell you what, we got to see that movie twice now. We got an advanced screening of it in preparation for this interview. And
it only got better the second time.
It did. I loved it. Loved it so much. So, yeah, well, I mean.
Just know that there will be spoilers.
Yes.
We try to alert as much as we can beforehand. But if you have not already seen Clown in a Cornfield and you do not want anything spoiled, go see it. Preferably go see it in theaters.
Yeah.
So that we can help out the community and maybe get Clown in the Cornfield too.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll lead to a trilogy.
Yeah, there are 2 other books, so there are a possibility of 2 other great horror movies to be made with this.
Yeah, with horror getting as popular as it is, we want to see more of it out there. So again, like Katie said, there will be spoilers. So just huge spoiler alert. If you're watching past this point, it's on you.
Yeah, you've been warned thoroughly. And again, we try to, throughout the interview, give some warning before some spoilers. But we talk about some major plot points, the ending, all of those things. So just be prepared.
Yeah. And also, if you haven't seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil or Little Evil, both great Eli Craig films. We talked pretty in deep about Tucker and Dale on that as well. So if you want to see both of those before you watch this interview, we encourage you to. So, but without further ado, here's our interview with Eli and Sasha Craig. So before we kind of start talking about the film industry and everything with you guys, I want to talk about your origins a little bit. What were each of your childhoods like, and what got you into the industry, and what was kind of the moment you knew you wanted to work in film as an actor and a director?
My Lord.
What?
Where did you go? Because
So my mom had the egg and my dad had the sperm.
it's called a zygote.
Yeah. Well, when they meet,
They,
it was a zygote.
Yeah.
And that happened, I think, in Guyana.
and that's when you wanted to act?
Yeah.
You were performing back
Well,
then?
someone was performing.
You had a- oh, big God. This is why I married her. He keeps me laughing. You wanted to act since...
Oh my God. I wanted to act. I would go to, you know what? I watched Annie on television. I mean, my first film I ever went to was Annie. And I went down in front of the movie theater and I started singing along with the whole musical on, in front of the little stage in front, and nobody said anything.
Well, you were cute.
Yeah,
Sure,
nobody,
they enjoy-
me and my little friend, I think we were 5, but there was always that part of me that liked to perform.
She still does that sometimes with
Yeah.
Annie plays.
A
Um,
little red
and,
dress.
and I was the opposite. I wanted to be as far away from the entertainment business as possible, but I loved making little movies and entertaining people. So it was a strange combination. But I grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up around a lot of famous people, and I kind of decided I didn't want to do that. Um, so it was this weird like dichotomy in my life where I didn't want to do that, and yet I was doing it all the time. Um, and then I went away to college, and I worked in about as opposite of business as you could find, which is like mountaineering and guiding people and guiding kids in the outdoors, um, ski patrolling, and uh, really kind of like grounded, soulful businesses. And I guess the arts can be that way too, but it cannot be that way too sometimes. And then I got pulled back in because I found my life was kind of incomplete without it. And so I started writing a lot, and I acted in a few things. And the funny thing for me is I got the first job I ever got as an actor was Carrie 2, The Rage. And I played this kid, Chuck, who got his head chopped off.
Yes.
And I got to pay that forward this time in Clowner and Cornfield when somebody's head gets chopped off. And I just felt this full circle, like that I was directing this other 23-year-old kid and helping him get his face mold done and helping him get his head chopped off. So I felt like I was really paying it forward for the younger groups there coming ahead.
I wondered that with going. I wondered when we watched Clown in the Cornfield about your son. I said, you started in Carrie 2, and now your son is kind of like the teenager getting killed in the horror movie.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I make it a point to try to kill at least one family member in every movie.
True's right.
So I killed you and Tucker and Dale
And yourself.
and me. Yeah. And then
You killed your mom.
I killed my mom in Little Evil, although she might have made it through.
I might have made it through too if we haven't ever a Tucker and Dale sequel. I do get to a Tucker and Dale's.
Stop. We're not talking about that. You're not interviewing me. They are.
You probably get that question a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard it. We've never
Never.
never what you're talking about.
Anyway, and then I killed Noah in this, so that was great. Yeah.
Well, who needs therapy when you can just make the movie about killing and murder? Yeah, exactly. It's legal. You can do it that way.
It does kind of release a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Super healthy.
Now, Sasha, how did you get into the industry? Like, what was the moment? I mean, I know you said you were in Annie, but when you really got into the industry, what was that like?
Okay, I was living in Northern California, and I'd always wanted to act. And my mom would say, my dad was ready to help me out and do it. My mom would say, no, you're too young. Wait until you get older. And then finally, I had a chance. There was an audition in San Francisco for Sunset Beach. I think it was Aaron Spelling, and it was a huge cattle call. And I got called in, and I read for them, and then I ended up being out of 3,000, the top 20 or something. And that's where I met a casting director named Bo Bonneau. And he said, hey, I want, your information so I could, call you in for some casting. And he called me in for Flubber. And that was awesome.
And you were a cheerleader on that.
Well, I came in as a cheerleader, and he said, okay, make up a cheer and teach. I was the first person there. And he goes, and teach all the other actors coming in the cheer, and then we'll see. So, and then he called in, there was a good team, the good team and the underdog team and the really, sporty team. And the sporty team had the Golden Nugget cheerleaders from the 49ers and the Warriors show up.
Awesome.
And so I danced with them, and I danced with the underdog team. And he goes, well, what team do you want to be on? And I said, I want to be with the underdogs.
Nice.
Yeah, so I
Of course, that's why you're with me. I think I've been an underdog. I'm definitely an underdog.
Okay.
And the fun thing is that you were wait a minute, I could make money doing this instead of
Well, it's just being on set and watching everything come together, from props to lighting to Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Robin freaking Williams,
Right.
Yeah.
like doing stand up between scenes.
Yeah.
It was just mesmerizing. And so 2 weeks after we finished shooting, I moved down to LA and I decided I was going to make a go for it. I strapped my beanbag on top of my 280Z, stuffed everything I owned in it, my little 2-seater car, and moved down to LA. So
My question with that too is for both of you, what is your favorite part of the actual filmmaking process, from writing to execution to we're at the premiere?
Wow. I think the favorite, well, they're all come with their own challenges, right? There's like these moments of celebration all along the way. Like when you find out you get greenlit, for instance, and then you're like, well, is it really going to be greenlit or is it going to be canceled right at the final second? But really my favorite part is working with actors. It's probably my favorite part is casting.
Yep.
Because you get to find your team and put the band together. And, you know, that's the part where it feels like there's like you're elevating all your material and you're finding people that make the lines that you wrote come alive and adding what they add to it and the nuance, and you're kind of begin changing the dialogue that you wrote to match them and vice versa. But casting and then to me working with actors on set are just two magical things, because I mean that's what you're there for, you know, is to bring the picture alive. And obviously, like the biggest choices you make as a director are probably your DP, production designer, and your cast.
Sure. So
And when you have the right team in place, everything begins to lift off.
yeah.
my favorite part is, well, because when we get to shooting, I mean, we've been at this, what? I met you in film school,
Yeah, but I mean, like even before that, right?
right? So the favorite part could be working with actors and casting, but that doesn't happen as often as we'd like
Yeah.
yet, you know? So I think my favorite part is reading what you wrote
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and then breaking down characters and figuring out like who they are and what they want to do, and like giggling and laughing and going over material and finding the jokes, whether it be physical or whatever. So I think that's like really what I enjoy doing with Eli when I'm working.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We also read a lot of auditions. He helps me audition a lot. And so the play part is my favorite part, when we get to play together. You guys get to slay together and we get to play together. So
Well, there's a good soundbite.
Yeah. Well, on that, you're our first couple that we've had as an interview. Just out of curiosity, how did you mentioned you met in film school, but really, just how did you guys meet and how did that blossom into a relationship?
Well, it's film related. It's actually kind of funny. So when I was in my first year of film school at USC, I was a graduate student at USC, and a group of buddies and I decided we were going to go to Sundance and just see what was happening at the Sundance Film Festival. So we all drove up and road tripped up there, and we crashed out in basically one apartment. There were like 12 of us. And on the third or fourth night of being there, and Sundance is crazy. Like for anybody who hasn't been there, it's like constantly going out to parties and seeing as many movies and never sleeping. And on like the third or fourth night, I was like, I just can't go out again. I can't do it. I can't go. And then my buddies convinced me. We went out to this bar and I saw this beautiful girl with beautiful blue eyes, and she was walking by and I kind of bumped a friend of mine to like bump into her. And then he spun around and asked her a million questions and wouldn't let me speak to her. But then at the end of the night, we were walking down the stairs together, and she was right next to me, and I got I asked for her phone number. What did you say?
I said my phone fell in the toilet.
Yes, you wouldn't give me your number because her phone fell in the toilet.
It was true.
And I begged for a little more time, and then and started emailing her, and we had these similar interests, and
Go get the dog.
and then one day I just saw her.
Go get the dog. So anyway, what really happened was I went to Sundance, and I got like I went by myself. I drove like 11 hours all the way there to
Yeah.
meet you.
Aw,
No.
not really.
But we I had this pass called the Adrenaline Pass where I could see all these movies before 8 a.m. and all these movies after 10 p.m. So I was like also couch surfing before I went to Sundance. Every person I met like in an audition, I was like, I'm going to Sundance, and I get like everybody's number, and I brought a big case of Charles Shaw wine. So every time I stayed in someone's place, I had like something to give. And then, yeah, I met this guy at the Chevrolet party. Was it
Yeah.
Chrysler?
Mm.
It was a Chrysler party at Sundance. And so, yeah, he pushed his buddy into me.
Yeah.
And the buddy was like
She was not,
super nervous.
but
He was like, "Hi, what do you do? Who are you know?" I'm like, "Oh, my name is Sasha." He goes, What have you been in?" I was like, "I was a Power Ranger." He's like, "Oh," and like he asked questions before. You know, the people who ask questions before
Yep.
you can answer them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but we found out she was Yellow Power Ranger,
and then he
and
stalked me.
I was like, I have to find out more about
Yeah.
her. And then we started working together. I put her in my first short film at USC, and it was called The Tao of Pong, with Jake Busey in it and Paulo Costanzo, and like I figured if we could work together, we could, live a life together. We actually worked together without
Is that
fighting,
what you? Yeah.
and well, that's my criteria. Yeah, you think there'd be a lot of people? But no, there's only one.
More to.
There's only one, and it's only you. And it was I don't know. We just had a good time collaborating and working together, and like being artistic together.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think that's one thing that we can definitely relate to you on. We are loving the creative process with our show and everything, and being able to collaborate together.
Yeah. So Eli, you mentioned The Rage Carry 2. What was that first acting experience like for you? And did you actually shave your head? And if you did you hate doing that?
Yeah. And in fact, I don't think I really read that part of the script, or it got revised somewhere after I agreed to it. But it was like all of the high school kids shaved their heads, except for Zachary Ty Bryan at the time, because he was on Home Improvement and he needed his hair. So he was the only one with a bald cap, but the rest of us shaved our heads. And I actually realized I could be bald and be okay. Like I looked pretty tough, looked kind of crazy actually. And then I got this head cast put on over me to mold a head. And that's quite terrifying because I shaved my head, and then I had to put these basically straws in my nostrils, and they put plaster cast over your entire face. So you can't breathe except for through your nose.
Yep.
Through these two little holes. And then you start panicking because you're like, I can't breathe. I can't get out of here. And you hear the guy barely on the outside, just relax. It's going to be 2 more minutes. Just try to go into Zen mode. And you try to Zen until this thing hardens, and then they can cut it off.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow.
That's one thing. I love the behind the scenes and like the special effects makeup. That is one thing I don't think I could ever handle, is the full encasement with only the 2 straws up your nose.
Yeah.
No, I remember I had this vision of me just standing up and like screaming, like trying to peel it off like some kind of alien species, and like cracking the head off of my face, poking my face out. But I was able to calm myself down and get through it.
So Sasha, can you tell us, I know this is still like a horror podcast, but I gotta ask, can you tell us how you got the role of Power Rangers and what that did for your life?
That was a good story. I got the role of Power Rangers of Kelsey Winslow on Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. I got that role because I was a courier, and I was delivering scripts and headshots and stuff to all the agencies in Hollywood. And I went back into my office to get some more packages, and my manager came in, and he goes, "Hey, are you an actress?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Do you want to be a Power Ranger?" I said, "Oh, yeah, here's my headshot." And he's like, "Okay." And I got an audition the next day. So I got an audition for Friday, and I went in, and it was awesome. And then I went through the weekend, and then I got the call back on Monday. And Yeah.
Oh.
I
It could happen that fast.
and
Your whole life
opened that
changes.
fast. By Monday night, I found out I was cast. So it was really quick and really fast and a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So I have to ask Eli about Tucker and Dale. It's my like all-time favorite. What was kind of the behind the scenes idea that got that started?
The behind the scenes idea was ultimately years ago. Sasha was there in the room, and it was my friend from film school, Morgan Jurgensen. We were coming up with a sort of second screenplay idea to write. And we said, what if Leatherface was actually just misunderstood, and the reverse of sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and all the college kids were like thinking he was a terrible, evil guy and trying to kill him, but accidentally killing themselves. And so that was, that's basically what the movie is. That was the idea at the time. And we came up that same day with the idea of a college kid like running and accidentally throwing himself into a wood chipper, and the idea of Tucker cutting into a bee's nest and running with the chainsaw over his head from the bees, and it looking like he's Leatherface running after the kids. And yeah, it was just felt like something to run with. It seemed totally absurd, like it is an absurd comedy. But then the job came down to like grounding it and making it absurd, yet the character is kind of believable at the same time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that we said was the chainsaw with the bees was definitely a Leatherface homage. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, there's a moment in there where we're tracking the two of them side by side, and it was so important to me to see them meet eyes and look at each other as Alan Tudyk, who plays Tucker, passes the kid by. And the kid's like, what the heck? Like, he just ran past me. And then, unfortunately for him, he gets speared right in the chest by a stick, a big, giant fallen tree. And then at the very, very end, as he's dying, a bee lands right on his nose. And he's smart enough to realize at that moment exactly what happened, but he's dead. So,
It's one of my favorite scenes. Of course, that and the wood chipper. But it is one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie is that. But I also love Tucker has a lot of great one-lines. Just, like I'll bring the finger sandwiches.
I know. So that I'll bring the finger sandwiches is totally, so much is written, but
It's improv.
there's so much improv too, right?
It's
Like
amazing.
so many great lines are written. I don't want to take that away, but that is Alan's improv there.
Yeah.
And he just came up. I think he had like 3 or 4 improvs as he entered the door that day. And that was one of them. And that was the keeper for sure.
Was the fact that he said hucked into the wood chipper, was that improv or was that on script?
No, that's on script.
Okay.
For some reason, hucked is just something I felt like they would say.
Yeah.
Just hucked itself right into the wood.
That's something I have to like to get the most laughs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of family from Tennessee. And so I'm watching it going like, that's exactly how my cousins would react, and how they would behave. So it was written beautifully, but I do love those one-liners.
Yeah.
Yeah. His bowling fingers was written. There's some stuff that, oh, you know what is great? I'll give you another great Alan Tudyk improv. I think he's going to walk it off after he stands up with the beam, the nails in his head. I think he's fine. I think he's going to walk it off.
Yeah.
That's Alan improving.
I love when he says that the store better not charge him for the rental on the wood chipper. That's a really good one, too.
Yeah, that's in the script. So it's very,
Good.
Yeah.
it's very much mixed together, but
Well, both Tucker and Dale and Clown on a Cornfield, they're very much, you're flipping the scripts on stereotypes and what you think you'd expect when you're going into a film, but it's different and you don't expect it, but it's like, it makes it even better. Like, where do you come up with these concepts? Like, I mean, obviously Clown on a Cornfield was already a written book, but did that attract you to the book? And, like, where does that idea come from? I feel like that's part of your genius, if you will.
well, like the flipping of the script, you mean?
Yeah. So like you don't expect Tucker, you would think like in a like standardized like slasher film that, yeah, Tucker and Dale would be the backwoods killers or, whatever, they'd be the Memorial Day Massacre killers, but it wasn't. It was it was just them doing it themselves. Same thing with Clown in a Cornfield. You're kind of expecting it to be a teenager, and again, we're getting into a little bit of spoilers here.
Don't.
We're getting into a little bit of spoilers here, just letting everybody know.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but like with Clown in a Cornfield, you think, oh, maybe it's a teenager, maybe it's two of the teenagers. No, it's the adults in the town. So you're not expecting that either. So I'm just curious. It's kind of a two-part question. Like, do you? I feel like you thrive off of that kind of a script, and is that what drew you to Clown in a Cornfield?
Okay, so now if you haven't seen the movie yet, you just got to turn it off and forget what you just heard. Go see the movie. But if you have seen the movie, we can talk a little bit about this. So I really need to surprise people. I think surprise is part of the fun of seeing a movie, and when you're not reversing tropes, there's something to be said for a movie that just is like a warm, cozy blanket, and you know exactly what's going to happen, and it happens that way. And it looks good and it's well done. And that's great. And people feel happy and satisfied by that. But for me, I like surprise. And I like feeling like something spins in a new direction all the time. And, I'm always looking for the hook in a story that goes like our dog over here is looking for a hook in the couch. But I'm always looking for something that changes the story in a new direction. Obviously, Tucker and Dale has that. Little Evil has that. And Clown in a Cornfield definitely has that. Because, there's a saying like life is what happens while you're making other plans. And I always kind of think of that when I'm in the middle of a movie. Like life is happening while the movie's happening. Yeah. And people's stories are progressing. And like, I don't want a movie to be about just one thing. I want it to be about all these things that are kind of like happening while the A story is taking place.
Yes.
And so within those things, there's reversals and change ups too. Because to me, that's the movie I want to see. And I'm just trying to make a movie I really want to see.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I think that when you can already see and you don't get a twist that you're going, oh, wow, that wasn't what I was expecting. It's kind of, been there, done that, seen it. So we watched Little Evil not too long ago as well, and I did really love the twist in that as well. I couldn't foresee that coming, and that's what I enjoy. We have recently reviewed the movie Saw, and if you've seen that, there's a big twist at the end, and that's one of my favorite movies because when you first watch it, you have no idea that that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah. And it's an interactive experience with horror audiences because I think horror audiences are some of the most educated and like film savvy. So when you're, they're just so aware of story and of what's come before as far as horror movies go, so that you're kind of playing also with their knowledge and trying to just lead them down a trail because like, oh, I know what's going to happen because I've seen this before. And you kind of lead them down a certain direction that then goes in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
Well, one of my questions I love to ask, because I'm constantly asking this of myself as being a fan, there's so many of us from all different backgrounds, age groups, religions, you name it, that just love a good horror movie. And I know that yours has a lot of spin of horror and comedy, but in general, why do you think that so many of us from so many different backgrounds just love a good scary slasher bloodbath of a movie?
Well, I think it's like the most primal form of cinema. And I think because you're playing with people's really like basic primal emotions of fear and anxiousness and suspense. It's like the same reason people like roller coasters, we love to be brought up and there's something about human nature that desires intensity, and for it to be make believe, if you could set yourself in it for a minute. And sometimes even within movies that are horrific, in a bloodbath, there's a part of you that comes out and is like, I'm alive. Like, I'm okay. I'm breathing. I'm alive right now. And it gives you a sense of joy for just being alive. And one thing I just engaging with all these horror fans again lately is how accepting and like loving of a community it is. And there's something about like horror fans, I think you guys are so crazy because you want to see the most brutal deaths imaginable, but you're all just so accepting and loving to each other.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
love that dichotomy.
And that's what it's like at the conventions too with horror. Like, I've seen a lot of drama at some of the pop culture ones, but then like at the horror ones, everybody's so loving and so nice. And it's like, a lot of the actors will hang out with the fans afterward and such. And it's just so welcoming. And, it's interesting too, because like you just said, like horror fans want to see the most crazy out there kill. But then it's funny because like we just binge watched the television series The Pit, which is it's an ER type show where it's like, real things are happening to people. Obviously it's still fictionalized because it's in a show, but it's funny because I feel myself getting queasy over seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
But anything on this wall I could watch and not get sick. I mean, it's just so funny how it has that effect.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work as an EMT. I got my wilderness EMT and I worked as a paramedic for a little bit, especially in the outdoors. But I decided in short order that I did not like blood. So it's kind of a funny thing. Like I can handle just massive amounts of blood being sprayed on my leads or my co-actors
Yeah.
in a film, but I can't really handle that, like a little tiny drip of blood in real life.
Yeah.
My dad always said I should be a nurse, and I said I could never take someone's blood.
Yep.
That just kind of freaks me out to have to poke someone else with a needle or set up an IV on someone else. But yet I love all of this horror and gore. So
You guys are crazy. Okay.
Um,
I would watch like the only way I would watch horror, it was because I would say it was to say I watched it. It was to say like I did like when I was a kid.
I mean, that's a lot of people.
It was to say all the books that I would read, it would be like, yeah, I'm reading. It was like to stun people or something, but I don't
I mean, that's what
really
Terrifier's kind of like
horror.
a lot of people.
Aesthetic guys. I don't really like
What do you mean? No,
That's okay.
I don't. It's not my. It's not my.
You like it better now.
I like the real ER and the drama and
Wait a minute. Is this going to be the big reveal that you don't like Clown in a Cornfield?
no, I love Clown in a Cornfield,
Oh, okay.
but I'm scared. I'm a big scaredy cat, right? So like because I watched, I knew from like I read Adam Caesar's amazing book. And I, and I watched how it progressed through the script. And then I watched we edit a million times. I watched the film a gajillion times. So
you like
yeah,
Okay, good.
I liked it.
Thick salt.
I can somewhat relate to you too with that, Sasha, because growing up, I had terrible night terrors. Everything made me scared. I remember watching Family Ties, and a Halloween episode freaked me out so bad as a kid. I had to have every light in the house on if I was home, like not night light, like full light.
Yeah.
So as I got kind of older, my friends were reading Goosebumps and R.L. Stein and all that, and I wanted to be cool like them. Well, of course, my parents are going, no, it's too scary. It's too scary. But as I progressed in like from reading to like watching like, Erie, Indiana, the TV show and everything, it kind of got me over those like fears. And I think that that's, probably a lot of fans. You start out having nightmares as kids and then you're like, oh no, it's got a good ending, or, you get invested in, and you get deeper into the characters, so I get it in a way. But as I've gotten older, the more I've looked more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when they're like
You're getting
when they're really close to real life, that, and you're like all the crazy horror that happens in real life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't. I'm like you've seen me when we first met. I was so tender. Like what were we watching? And I screamed. They were about to kill somebody.
the piano.
No, the piano. I didn't scream.
Yeah, that's true.
That's like we actually watched that on our first date.
I know. I didn't know how scared she was of like horror and war, but I would say you're more scared of like real war
I
footage.
think because my imagination is so vivid, like that I imagine it happening and then I go there. I've gotten so much better.
Yeah, and you're okay with clowns killing people somehow.
Yeah, well, I haven't watched any other clown killing movie.
Oh, okay. Well, we have to get you.
I don't know what we do. I think yours is the best.
Well, it gets all the ones she hasn't seen.
Right.
Yeah.
So your personal relationship, like how how does that uh how does your personal relationship influence your professional collaborations together? Like balancing work and family and such a creative industry. Like, what does it look like, on the couch versus, behind the camera, basically?
On my couch. Ew. You know what? When Eli proposed to me, he wrote me this beautiful poem called Dream Chasers. And it talked about us chasing our dreams together. And we've, you know, we've always been very, very supportive of each other. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to find somebody that's willing to ride the ups and downs of like a creative career. And we definitely had the rocky times. But sometimes we're closest, I think. We're just when we're maybe can't find work together, but we're totally in love and we have our family. And you're like, well, I may never work again, but at least we have us and we have a family.
Yeah.
And then there's times like this where it feels like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm releasing a movie theatrically this weekend. And you kind of can't believe all the things we've worked toward are paying off.
Some fruition.
Yeah. So it's a balance of things, but man, you just want to be with somebody that makes you laugh and helps you complete things. Fine. Just finish what you start.
Yeah, absolutely. So one big thing I really wanted to talk about is, and I don't want to say this in a negative light because I don't see it as negative. So I want to say that first of all. But one of the things I want to talk about was nepotism in the film industry. The way that I look at it is like, I personally would rather have a kid or like, a 23-year-old or something fixing my car that learned from his dad or his mom, who was a mechanic growing up and got years of experience before getting the credentials, to back his work. It's the same with acting. I would imagine having Sally Field as your mom, you probably took a lot of inspiration, or she probably taught you a lot. Maybe not. But even Jack Quaid, he said, yeah, I'm a nepo baby, so what? It doesn't affect how I work. I still work my ass off and I still give it 110%. So with your family, obviously, like I said, Eli, your mom is Sally Field, and you're a legend kind of in your own right with Tucker and Dale and Clown on the Cornfield now. Sasha with Power Rangers, and now like Noah is getting into the business. Your son, how do you feel about your family's success, and what are your views on something like that, like families and businesses in the business?
Well, I think for me, it's just transformed so much over my life. I never expected, like I started this interview, to get into the business at all.
This interview?
Yeah, we were talking about, I just went into mountaineering and like, I wanted to be a ski bum basically my whole life. And I got pulled back in because I love storytelling. But I never, here's the thing that's just so weird about me.
About your grandmother though.
Yeah.
What? His grandmother was a scream queen. Back, even so you could say, oh, well, Sally was a nepo baby. You know what I mean? It's like you have families that are doctors and that their kids are doctors, or bakers that their kids, you used to have like a smith, right? The metalsmith. It would be their kids and their kids and their kids.
Yeah.
And now I think anybody who wants to be, play a victim and say, oh, well, they're a nepo baby. Yes, you have like things that you get to learn growing up, but there's also a lot of things that you've learned the negative stuff about it.
Right.
I'd say me coming into the business, I was so naive. I looked for agents in the yellow pages, and that they're not there, guys. Just if you want to know, they're not there. So like I had this idea of like, I didn't know what wasn't possible. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where somebody coming from Eli's position would be like, well, you have to do it this way or this way, this way. You know what I mean?
Well, not real. I mean, I do think the one thing it helps is that it doesn't feel insane, because the business just feels so impossibly insane so much of the time, what you're trying to do. And if you have your parents and everybody else telling you, yeah, that is insane, Like, you're not going to be able to do this.
Parents never told me that.
Yeah. So that's the main thing, is to have parents that don't tell you your dream is insane.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and sometimes people will get there anyway and they fight against that. I had a mom that was very, very supportive and just was like, you can do this. You can do this. I believe in you. But I just never, I also didn't know how to, but I never really had doors that visibly opened to me from having her as a mom. I had a lot of good advice, and seeing her as just like this warrior fighter, my God, just she's so strong.
Yeah.
And she believes in herself and she fights for what she wants. I think that's the main kind of inspiration to have from her. But it was never easy. It was so difficult for me to get anything made. I mean, that's why there's been, 21 years between movies. I had my first movie was Tao of Pong, not between them, but I have like these 7-year gaps. Like, it takes so long for me to get a movie made. And, if people think it's
It
easy,
used to.
if people think it's easy, it's murder. So,
Who did you kill?
I killed my mother, my brother,
That's right.
my son. Anyway, so there's a part of me that feels like it's a way to take somebody's accomplishments away, to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like Jack Quaid said, I've worked so hard that for somebody to say that to me, makes me want to take him out back and
Right.
get in a fighting match.
No, buy him a drink.
Or buy him a drink.
Get him,
And then
take him out back
maybe
and
buy-
tell him. And try to connect with them.
Well, and again, I see it as a strength because, like Noah has a strength. He has both of you that have done almost everything in the business. Like, he's going to be able to like take advice from you guys and just be like, hey, how can I make this better? Or, I see it as a positive thing. Like, it's definitely not.
Noah, though, what's amazing is because he's been around it from such a young age, he's freaking hilarious.
Yeah. Noah's a performer.
Like, I wish I had the confidence when I was his age,
Yeah.
of what he does. And it's just, he has something that I don't know.
Yeah. And there's a reason why I love being behind the camera. Like, I acted for a little while and like, this makes me very uncomfortable and nervous, like, for everybody to stare at me.
Yeah.
Can we just look away? And so for me to then be behind the camera,
Never know, though, right?
I know every second people are looking at me. I'm like, how about looking at her? Isn't she pretty? So and then I love working with actors and stuff, but I don't like acting. Like, I genuinely it makes me feel terrible. And at the end of the day, I'm like, God, every day, no matter what I did when I was an actor, I'd be like, God, I sucked. And even when you look at it later and you're like, it wasn't that bad. It was fine. You just left with this feeling of just awfulness inside.
Yeah.
And yeah.
If you want to sit on the couch, we can talk about it. Oh, just lay down.
Okay. We'll lay down.
Well, speaking of Clown in a Cornfield,
Yeah.
I have to say that Noah's timing was perfection. Again, if anyone wants to fast forward, there might be some spoilers here, but I think it's in the trailer, him right in the forehead. That was such great timing that he had. Wonderful.
I knew he could do it. I cast, like I say, I love casting, and I would never cast somebody in a part that's not perfect for it.
Yeah.
And so he was like the guy for this role. And he also plays a stoner, and he's the furthest thing from a stoner. He's just got this
lovely.
shaggy hair. A little kind of thing I haven't told anybody. Here's a little exclusive for you guys. He's supposed to be smoking a joint. He is smoking a joint, and he's got a beer in one hand and a joint in the other. And
An herbal cigarette.
it's an herbal cigarette. But
Spoiler.
we're like, he's like lighting it on. There's 50 extras around, and there's Noah, my 17-year-old son at the time, trying to light this joint, and he couldn't get it lit. So I run over. I'm like, here, let me handle this, son. I got this. And I light the joint for him, hand it back to him. He's like, thanks, Dad. And all the extras cheered. They're like, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was working with Arlen Sepulveda or something. I can't remember his last name, but I was working with him at a convention, and he plays he's the black guy in Friday the 13th, 2009. He plays the stoner along with the Asian guy who's also, they're both like the big stoners. never smoked weed before in his life, and he said he kept having to get help. Every time he'd smoke the fake stuff, he'd get sick. Like, so it's funny when you hear stories about that. Like,
Yeah, and his character like brings out like this huge big bong. And they talking about like being married to her or whatever, and he's like, I have no idea how this works.
yeah. So again, biggest
I'm glad you could show him.
I know. I'm such a proud father.
Wow.
He's finally figured it out.
Lauren.
I don't want to talk about that.
No comment, right?
Well, I'm curious. Again, we're kind of in the spoiler section of Clown and Cornfield now. I've got to know because I was trying to count. I think I counted the right number. How many actual clowns were there in total? Like, were there for the killers? Like, who was all behind the mask and who was? How many were there?
Different combinations of the clown outfit and mask.
Yeah, I counted 9. That was my guess.
Yeah.
9, including
Yeah,
Kevin Strand.
You're not wrong. I mean, there's kind of some leeway that there could be some extras around that you don't really see. 9, including Arthur.
Yep.
Is kind of I mean, in the book there's more, right? It's just that I have to fit him within one shot and within one budget.
Sure.
And so 7 coming out of the cornfield seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
And so 8 then down on the ground, and then 9 at the end. So
Well, then you had the guys in the. Oh no, they brought him home. They brought him into the.
yeah, they brought him into the.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, are these 2 extra? No, I think because it's the one who got shot by Rust,
The
and then
arm.
yeah.
Yeah, I like to kind of track them and be kind of specific about who they all are and tracking them, but then have some leeway if there were a couple extras out there.
Yeah.
I don't mind. But yeah, you got it right.
Yeah.
One of the first things that I noticed about Friendo, and the first thing that made me laugh, was the squeaky shoes. Was that
I know.
personally? I have not read the book, so is that something from the book? Is that something that was behind the scenes brought in?
No, that was honestly a little late behind the scenes too. I was in post
Oh,
that because I had those footsteps come up and they're such big clown shoes. And was there a suggestion? Did Noah say that? I don't know when we came up with the squeaks.
Yeah.
I feel like my son might have suggested it.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, let's try it. And then we put in the squeaks there, and then I put in squeaks after the decapitation.
Mhm.
And then I went so far to put squeaks like everywhere, like wall to wall, like when they run out of the cornfields, like squeak, 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 squeak. And that's when I realized, wait, okay, there's too many squeaks. This is becoming a nuisance. So I kind of dialed that back and just tried to find when it was humorous and when it worked to have the squeaks, and then kind of just let the squeaking not be there at a certain point.
Yeah, most definitely after the decapitation was one of my favorite squeak, squeak, like just like the walking off calmly.
I mean, that's like the movie, trying to do something that's pretty grisly and then followed up by a humorous beat.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I was curious about Frendo's laugh. Is it the same? It's the same when all adults use it as the Frendo killer. Like, was that a voice box in the story? Like, what was that intended to be? Because, like, obviously when the kids are making their film with Frendo and it's not the real Frendos, like, they obviously have constructed their own laugh, but this one kind of had a unique laugh when the actual killers were making their kills. So how does that?
Yeah. And we played around with the laugh a bit too. I went from thinking I was going to have a lot of laughter to none to some. The first there's laughter in the wind up box, which I have over here. You should grab that. In our little Jack in the Box.
Yep.
This one we put a laugh in as he pops up.
Yeah.
And it was my editor, who's also a voiceover actress, and she's really talented, Sabrina Pitre. And she also edited Final Destination 6 that comes out right after us.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, so she's great. And then she kind of like put her little touch of a laughter on him as he pops up. And then I had a laugh at a part, so I was laughing for the clown. And that was in the factory. It was like
Okay.
and then try to dial that in background, and then I just try to find the right balance. But the idea behind it was that, why are you laughing at me now? The idea was that the original Friendo that was the mascot for Kettle Springs corn syrup factory kind of was like, had a little laugh. He's like, go buy some corn syrup, kids. That kind of thing. And so it just got more evil and demented over time.
That's awesome. Speaking of the box, I told Sasha, I was like, I want one of those so bad. And I had to ask her, I was like, are you guys merchandising those?
Well, they're making some for press and stuff right now. And it depends on if the movie does really well, they're kind of lining it up to maybe merchandise them.
I'm hoping so. That's the fingers crossed, not a middle finger, but because I really want to. I have a lot of props over here. Like I've got masks and props, and I'm like, that would go perfectly over here in my stuff. So, but
Brandon,
What's that?
you'll like this one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome too. I've got a mask wall, and that would look so cool.
I mean, this is the one we actually used, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Sweat, stuntman sweat and all inside.
Oh, awesome.
Smells great.
Speaking of which, BJ Bro mostly played Friendo.
Okay.
And he came out and saw the film for the first time in Chicago at our Chicago screening. And totally surprising to him, all these people started wanting his autographed.
Yeah.
And he got invited out to Houston at the convention. There's like a Houston horror
Film Festival. Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah. And now BJ's suddenly the face behind Friendo. And he's like, this is insane, man. Like, people are treating me like a star.
Yep.
Like, get used to it, BJ.
Yep.
I personally am a huge fan of Katie Douglas. I love her in Ginny and Georgia, and then in I think don't quote me, it may not be, but I think it's a Lifetime movie, The Girl That Escaped. She's so good in those movies. What was that like? First, seeing her casting, choosing her, and working with Katie Douglas.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw her too in all these things, and I knew she was the one, like, before she auditioned. If she wouldn't audition, I would have hired her anyway if she didn't audition.
Yeah.
But I was fighting with the producers, like, early on. I was trying to balance it because you're always it's always a lot of psychology with producers, especially like Marty Bowen, who's very successful producer, and he knows what he's doing. But when you want something as a director, usually the best way to get it is not to like head on fight about it, especially with a guy like Marty. So you kind of want to make sure everybody's feeling good about the choices, and you want to give everybody the right amount of time, but make it feel like their decision too.
Sure.
And that's the psychology of it. So I was truly trying to put Katie in front of him, as I already decided it was her. But he wanted to see everybody audition. So she auditioned for us and killed it. And then Marty was the one that was like a little bit torn, but then all the other producers were on board with Katie, and they were all like, it's got to be Katie Douglas. I was like, it's definitely Katie. And Marty was like, okay, like, we're in. If you love Katie Douglas, like, she's your Quinn. And I just knew she was ready for it. She's been acting since she was 6 years old. Even Lifetime movies can come off as being kind of campy, and the characters aren't quite grounded or real. And, it's hard for the actors because they don't have a lot of time. They have maybe 1 or 2 takes. Lifetime movies are filmed in like 12 to 15 days. And so it's really hard to be an actor to make those movies seem grounded and real. And she was doing it. And so I watched those. I saw Ginny and Georgia. Another thing that just really sold me on it was the role she had in Pretty Hard Cases. And that was with Percy Hines White. And they were both, I mean, Percy is such a great actor too. Percy Hines White, if you know him, just super grounded. And together they, I don't know, she was so tough. She was so hardened, and she's so fragile at the same time. And that was what I wanted Quinn to be, just this underdog hero.
Yeah.
And every day on set, I was just like sitting front row to watch her rise to the occasion. And she impressed me. She just impressed me every day she was there. It was awesome.
Well, what I like about her character too is she's not your typical final girl. I mean, the characters again are kind of script was flipped as well. I mean, she's she's the one who initially wanted to have sex with Cole, whereas you see movies like Scream, Billy was the one that was always trying to initiate sex, and she wasn't ready, or and Sydney wasn't ready. And she's a little bit more of a spitfire. She's got kind of a darker tone to her voice, and you wouldn't necessarily expect that. And then here you've got her, again coming more onto Cole than he is to her. You find out that he's gay and not interested in that way. So again, this is where I find it to be like your kind of typical, but in a good way, Eli Craig film where it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I like that. That's nice and original.
Yeah, and I mean I wanted her to be a strong character from the beginning, and then to sort of fight for what she wanted.
Yeah.
And I think from the beginning, and she was also really searching. She's not perfect by any means. She's also really searching for love, and she lost her mother recently, and she's trying to find her place in this new town. And the movie happens quite quickly. I mean, it's like over a 3-day period.
Yeah.
But sometimes movie time is like compressed. But I think it was so important that she was the one, for multiple reasons, trying to get together with Cole, like being the one in charge. First of all, I think the world's just a little more like that now than the movies we used to watch. And this is really important for me that this is a Gen Z horror movie.
Yes.
This is a movie made, it's Adam Caesar's a millennial, but it's not a remake. This is made for now.
Right.
And this isn't a movie that we're not making Scream 6. We're not like, I feel like so many movies nowadays, especially horror movies, are like Gen X or millennials rebooting a movie that was big in their day for Gen Z.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it's exciting to be like a new movie for them.
Yeah.
And that was important to have that tone that was like Katie Quinn was like her own person that seems more modern.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I took from both Tucker and Dale, and this is with Tucker and Dale, it's you're taking your stereotypical societal characters, like, even throughout the film, they're all, you fucking hillbillies or you fucking college kids, like, and it's like it's societal stereotypes, and then in this one it's generational stereotypes. So you hear it in Kevin Durand's character's motive monologue at the end. He's talking about how in the 60s it was hippies and pot smokers and going through all the generations, and he's like, now you guys are the worst of them all. And it's breaking those stereotypes down basically and saying, fuck you basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Footloose, right? This movie's like Footloose meets slasher horror.
Yeah.
And it's the older generation trying to hold back and really belittling the younger one. But it's what we do all the time. And that's why, like, my son's points of view and his feedback were so important during the making of this film, because he's 17 now, 18 years old. And the dialogue and all that, I would run through with him all the time. But like, we're always saying to him, like, get off your phone, just go outside and play, get off, enough of the computer. But in a way,
I know that.
yeah, in a way, I feel like this next generation, the Gen Z people, are so hopeful, and they're so forward looking, they're so accepting of each other, and they are so hardworking. And like, I don't think the older generations are giving them enough credit.
Yeah.
And in some ways, like this movie is sort of a tribute to them.
Yeah.
I really think some of the ways the older generation have treated Gen Z is sort of unforgivable.
Yeah.
I do have to say one thing about that too. The scene where they're trying to call the landline and it's a rotary phone, and she's like, "Where's the button?" When I was a child, my grandfather had an actual working rotary phone in the garage, and I remember thinking it was like my toy Fisher Price, and I'm just spinning numbers. I got in big trouble. He's like, the phone bill's gonna be crazy. It was a total heartwarming nostalgia moment for me too, because I am a millennial, but I understand that when it's like, I just thought it was a toy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that far off. They've probably never seen a phone like that. These kids,
Yep.
So I think the thing that makes that line so funny is it's quite real.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, working with both Kevin Durand and Will Sasso, what was that like? I mean, I feel like you have to be laughing constantly because those guys are just so funny. Like, I've had the pleasure of meeting Kevin, and Kevin is just the sweetest guy ever. I mean, I've seen him in a line with fans, and he's just like super personable. How was it working with him on set as well as Will?
Yeah, I mean Kevin, same. He's genuinely, and that's authentic. It's not him putting on a face. Like he's authentically the nicest human you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Um, but he played a very, very dark role in this film. So it would be interesting to cut and be talking to him and be like giving him feedback. And he's not the kind of actor that stays, he's not method, or whatever. Like you cut and he's just the nicest guy. He's like, is that okay? What can I do better? Like, how do we elevate this? And then I give him some notes and then you say action and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, and it's so wild, his performance in this. But especially I was just so impressed because he had one of those monologues. You have to come in and it's interactive monologue, but it's like 5 pages. We had to shoot it in one day and it was very intense. And just to know that, just to know the dialogue inside and out like that and be like, okay, we're going to take it from this beat and go. We're going to go from here. And the technical skill that he has learned over the years of acting is so phenomenal to watch. And I've talked to him about that. And he said, like, I'm so OCD that I can't go to set until I know that dialogue inside and out, backward and forward.
Yeah.
And so that's the starting place with it, the dialogue, but then being able to give a note and have him change it up and give you a new performance all the time. I think he really made the film work because if that character didn't work in the third act, like the whole film wouldn't work.
Sure.
So I was really, really proud that he came through and just rose to the occasion. You also talked about Will Sasso, also one of the nicest guys and one of the funniest guys. And I love him playing the sheriff because he brings a sense of humor to a character that could just be kind of one note and really dark.
Yeah.
And he kind of just brightens up. I find him funny. He's like a really funny character to me, even though he's just a total, antagonist and a threat.
Yeah. I honestly wondered the second time around when we watched it for the second time today. We watched it today just as a refresher. But I almost honestly wondered when Quinn leaves the restaurant and Will sits down with the dad. I honestly wondered if he would have tried to recruit him into being one of the friendos. Was that ever a possibility?
Well, if absolutely, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of backstory. If you should read the book, right?
Yeah.
Because there's more nuance, of course, in the book, and you don't have the time for all that. But I mean, the dad was never going to go that route. There's absolutely no way.
Sure.
But anybody that would join forces, and probably the sheriff. It's funny how later he justifies everything. He's like, I tried to warn you. All you had to do is stay away from these guys, and you would have been alive at this point.
Yeah.
To Quinn. So I don't know. I really love when antagonists like justify their position, even though it's pure evil. Like inside their mind, they're like, nope, there's a good reason for this.
Yeah.
One of the things that we like to do when we review is ask each other, like, what was our favorite scene? And then what was our favorite kill or death? Can you even come up with your favorite maybe death or favorite scene?
Maybe even Sasha. Sasha,
Yeah.
what's your favorite scene?
I want to hear Sasha.
My favorite.
What's your favorite death?
Oh, probably when Cassandra.
Goes up to the roof, like
Yeah.
when Janet gets killed. That was
And,
pitchfork.
and the whole like Cassandra's dying and she's like I hate you. She's like, I'm so sorry, I gotta do this, and she goes, I hate you, Quinn. Then the says, I hate you too. Yeah, I think that's my favorite.
That's actually my favorite death too, because not even just the dialogue there was hilarious, but also, and again, this goes back to us talking about like fans being a fan of the how gruesome the death is. Not only was she taken up by a pitchfork, but then she was electrocuted in the light with the pitchfork. That I thought that was impressive just to see. It would have been interesting to see that filmed. Like, obviously there's fake sparks or whatever, but I thought you guys did a really good job with that scene.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. That's one of the fun parts about directing, is working with these incredible stuntmen. I was just talking to the stunt guy about it, because we don't have a lot of time ever to shoot this stuff.
Yeah.
But so if it doesn't work, you're like, but we had a wire that went up through the ceiling.
Yep.
And then basically right next to the light fixture. And the light fixture is candy glass, but it's still glass, right? And it can still cut you up. And the stunt woman, Kristen's her name. I'm forgetting her last name, but she's such a badass, because and the stunt guy, obviously he had Andre had the pitchfork, and he had to kind of like slowly guide her up to the ceiling. But really the people taking her weight were the guys outside the back wall, hauling this line like on a pulley system.
Yep.
So they are taking all her weight and slamming her up into the ceiling and smashing that candy glass into bits. And then the sparks and then there's an actual light we have to shut off, but then sparks are added afterward. But it was quite a violent like slam, and she had to do it maybe 5 times. No, yeah, 5 times, and just wham right up into the ceiling. And the first time we did it, there was a little bit of a pendulum looking thing that made it look false.
Yep.
So it was a really close timing issue, and then it just had to come straight up there. All those things are really exciting to like be involved with and like try to make look as real as possible.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked about the film is how you were able to make Cole and Russ this kind of surprise couple. Like they did such a good job of playing, ex-best friends and then best friends-ish. They kind of came back together as friends. I really liked their dialogue, especially it's the way that they use the word man. Like, I know Rust at one point was like, "Oh, gee, thanks, man." Like that just kind of sounded like something you'd say to your buddy. And I thought you guys did a really good job at hiding that until it was time I was kind of with the girls. I was like, "Oh."
Well, that's the timing that's just wonderful to see, because I don't want the audience to be too far ahead. And that was tough, right? Because we're doing things like he's pushing Katie away, and and that scene's the one where you're like, oh God, people are gonna know that this guy's gay when he says, "Let's go get a beer."
And to your credit, take a beer. And
Yeah.
to your credit, I didn't think that way. I kind of thought he was more of a nervous teenager than anything. It didn't say he was gay to me.
Yeah,
Did you think that he might be a killer?
Yeah, because he was like, there were parts where he disappeared for a minute. And again, this was
where he was, and he's like, "Looking for you," and I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah, and then this is where you haven't quite seen the script flipped yet when you're wondering, okay, which teenager is it? Which 2 teenagers are they? And then it's like, nope, it's not him. It's the town. So
Well, and during the scene when Quinn is kind of being the initiator to be more physical, when he's talking about being slower, I didn't initially go to like sexuality. I went, or sensual orientation. I went to, oh, maybe he's a virgin.
yeah,
And then I thought, okay, like the trope of, the final person has to be a virgin kind of a thing. So that's where my mindset, kind of went with that. And then the first time we watched through, I was very shocked. Now, the second time that we watched it through, I picked up on some of those nuances of, we knew that they didn't like each other, that there was some kind of history between these 2 guys. But then when I think it's Rust is walking with Quinn to school, and he says something about being true to yourself or something like that, that I'm going, now I'm seeing more of those little cues that
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's exactly the way a second viewing is always what every director kind of hopes for, right?
Yeah.
And that you can catch those little things on a second viewing, but they just seem like tension between 2 buddies in the first viewing.
Yeah.
And that's very much what Cole is going through, is he doesn't, it's a tough town to be gay in, and he does not want to be gay. I mean, from...
Sorry, I don't know why that sounds.
It's a tough...
I mean, a tough town to be gay. Yeah, it's.
sure.
I mean,
Well, even in
American town.
Yeah, even in today's small town USA, and his dad is, this big influential guy that obviously already has a grudge against him. Yeah, it would definitely be hard.
Yeah. And so he's trying to figure it out. Like maybe he's not. I know that I mean, gay people I know have had like maybe it'll work if I'm not. Maybe I'll try not being gay. And it just is they're gay. I mean, what do you do? So
Yeah.
that's what Cole's trying to figure out. And it's fun. I mean, that's part of why I loved making this movie was to have that storyline during an apocalyptic clown attack. It's like that's the absurdity of it. But he's kind of coming to terms with who he is and what his sexuality is.
Yeah.
During the most absurd time that could ever happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that was part of the brilliance of it too, is with Quinn, you didn't necessarily know at the beginning and like even in the first 20 minutes to a half an hour, you didn't necessarily know which one she was interested in because she was walking with Rust and they were kind of having a little bit of a thing. You thought maybe, okay, if she's the new girl, she's kind of the outcast. She's relating to being with the outcast. And then she's kind of starting to fit in more with the group of people and meets Cole and it's like, okay, well, maybe she's going to go off and be with him. And again, you don't know these things until that particular scene, which again was great. You just didn't know.
Yeah.
And she probably didn't know either.
Yeah.
No, that's what happens.
Well, and the first time that we watched through, I even kind of questioned like maybe Cole is bisexual. I mean, he's still young, he's still figuring it out. Maybe that's why he's kind of pushing Rust away. They obviously have some kind of history that we don't fully know. So that was my thinking as well was, younger, older teenager, but younger adult, still kind of discovering who he truly is. And he doesn't want to hurt Rust, but maybe he's not fully gay. So was my thought process while watching.
Yeah. I got to say my favorite scene. So we talk about our favorite deaths and our favorite scene. My favorite scene of this film was the scene where Katie is in the truck and like she says it and it's almost like I felt this because, well, first of all, she says, next time your dad wants you to drive a stick, you fucking do it. And
Teach you.
that was like my favorite thing about because
Yes.
my dad did that to me. So my dad bought me when I was 17. He got a really good deal. He paid like $900 for an old '89 Chevy S10, and it was a stick shift. And he was like, he was like, you're gonna drive a stick. You're gonna learn how to drive a stick because there's not enough people that know how to do this, and it's gonna help you later in life. And it sure did. Like,
I still don't know how to drive.
yeah, I've tried teaching her. She gave up like
So.
2 seconds.
Were you having to escape from clowns trying to kill you?
No, no, but I did get really scared because somehow he had a little Saturn Ion, and he was trying to teach me in a parking lot, but there were cars parked, and I jumped it somehow, some way, and I just immediately put the brakes on. It was like, nope, nope. I go back to my automatic.
Yeah, she didn't realize that your first 10 times that you try to drive a stick, you're gonna stall the vehicle out.
It sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom used to do this thing. She had like this little blue Fiat Spider
Yeah.
when I was growing up. And she used to do this thing where she would take her hands off the car and be like, magic trick. And the car turned itself off by itself. Like, so I
Jumps around.
my dad was a race car driver, so he taught me.
Yeah, you know how to drive stick for sure. Yeah, I'm so glad that was your favorite though, because I wondered about that line if it walked on some of the fear. I was always trying to separate the comedy from the horror, and that's one moment that they kind of meet.
Yeah.
And do you think they played at the same time, or do you think the comedy got in the way of you being scared?
No,
I
think-
loved it.
Yeah, because they played at the same time because it kept you in it because you're like, oh shit, there's a bunch of clowns around, they're gonna get her. But then at the same time, like that line was great. Like you're kind of like, oh, oh, like it stayed all within the one scene. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it made you bringing up that line makes me think about, to me, this movie was like more technical.
Yep.
If I can say it, than like Tucker and Dale, because when I made Tucker and Dale, I was kind of going for laughs all the time. And then I had sections that I definitely wanted to be more plugged in and emotional, but even that was kind of tongue in cheek humor. And this time I was like, I want this area to be scary and suspenseful. And then I want this to be funny. And it was very targeted. And a lot of times, especially within the studio system, they're like, we don't want humor with our horror.
Sure.
Like especially Lionsgate or some of these studios are like, cut all the jokes out and maybe we'll distribute your movie. So, I hope Yeah, I'm curious. What do you guys do? You like horror and comedy together? Or
Yeah. Well, that's
Absolutely. I was just about to say they need to take a survey of horror fans because I think the majority like that. And that particular scene when she's talking about I should have learned stick, and then boom, the glass breaks, to me made it more scary because I'm laughing about the joke and then oh, here they are.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
I think a lot of horror fans like, and then you have the dark humor where it's like I feel bad for laughing, but that's funny.
Yeah.
I think a lot of horror fans like that.
I feel like
yeah. I mean, I guess we have our biggest survey you can do coming right up, or it's happening when this comes out. The survey of your butt in a seat.
Yeah.
So
Right.
go see it May 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, so, and kind of getting back to what you were saying about, does it land or whatever? I think it does. And the reason why I feel like it works, the big reason why I think it works is because yes, it's a book, but like with both this and Tucker and Dale, they're original stories. They're not spoofs off something else. So like a lot of what we have in horror comedy, and again, nothing against that because we love Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2 and those, but like those are jokes based off of something we had already seen, whereas you're able to make us laugh originally, if that makes any sense. Like Tucker's one-liners and Tucker and Dale. I mean, the finger sandwiches, like you just laugh so much at that. And it wasn't based on another joke. Yeah, I mean, it had vibes of like Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw, but it wasn't a direct spoof from those. So to answer your question, yes, it does work, very much so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really want to do something unique. It's more fun for me to try to do something a little more dangerous and take a bigger swing and try something a little fresh.
Yeah.
And if it works, I feel like I'd rather take a chance and leave something behind that's like unique
Right.
than just do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And, be safer. So
And I
I'm
think
a
the
risk
people
taker.
in the fandom appreciate that and want that.
Yeah.
Reboots, okay, if it's done well, a lot of times it's not. Like you're messing with an original that's nostalgia. Is sometimes it does, maybe it gets seats, sold, but afterward are people really talking about it, replaying it, loving it. I think there's a reason why Tucker and Dale is a cult classic. People still, we have our Tucker and Dale shirts on. People have stopped us and been like, I love that movie. I agree with you, and I've said it in our show and other episodes. I would rather have an original idea. I'd rather see something new and different than be like, oh, okay, so we're doing another slasher where this person's going to go, this person's going to go. Okay, then
Yeah.
this is unique and original, but it ties in with some of the tropes, but then it puts the tropes on its head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I had kind of mentioned this in one of my Instagram stories, this movie, I feel like still on the horror side of things, like this is kind of the next great slasher. Like, we loved Thanksgiving
Yeah.
2 years ago. Like
Mhm.
that was a
The
great,
original idea.
yeah. And last year we really got into Abigail and like that was a fun vampire one. But this one, I don't think is going to go by the wayside. I think people are going to see this, especially if there are 2 sequels coming along with the books. We really like this movie as a horror movie with comedy in it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. And I mean, the neat thing of course, I want everybody to go see it in the theater, and I made this movie for the movie theater. But then after that, it goes, I guess, to VOD, and then because it's RLJE, it'll be sold in like physical form and Walmart and everything. So it'll be a lot of Walmart's like the final standard. It's finally the last standing for DVD. And then it's going to go to Shudder.
Yep.
And the cool thing about Shudder is like, it's not like an algorithm that everybody has a different algorithm like Netflix. Like Shudder chooses what they want to publicize.
Right.
And so right before Halloween of 2025, this movie's going to be playing on Shudder. And so it's going to get a lot of play.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool.
Well, obviously, there's still fans of physical media.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a lot of collectors out there, and
me being one of them, it drives me crazy that I don't have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 DVD, nor do I have a Hellraiser 2022 DVD, because it's like I have these franchises on my shelf, but I don't have those. And like Maxine, they didn't make a DVD of, they made a Blu-ray of it only. My other two are DVDs, and I had to get the Blu-ray of that. So I am one of those physical media nuts. Power Rangers at the same time, they haven't made DVD sets of the final 5 seasons, and I've got everybody else's. So it's like, give me the physical media of it.
Yeah. And I think it matters to people, and there's a bit of a throwback to it, and that's the part I like. This is a film that's a bit of a throwback to like the 80s horror.
Yeah.
And in 90s.
Yeah.
And that's when we all rented videos and DVDs and everything, and I think the media for a horror film is just really special, because somebody comes over, you're putting it in, you're like making popcorn, you're sitting down and watching it, and we have DVD commentary on it for people that want it, and some behind the scenes stuff. So
Yeah. Well, and it's also the fact that you actually get to hold, like, you have a sense of ownership when you buy a DVD or something physical media. It's like, would I want a painting of the Mona Lisa in my living room or just a picture of it on my phone? Obviously an art collector would want that actual painting in their living room, where, for me, I would like to have it on my shelf here, and that, we like to put it on our little table here, kind of when we're reviewing a movie and talking about it. Like, I've got your poster here. Lauren hooked us up with that, one of the ones he signs. So yeah, it's nice to be able to have a sense of ownership. It's like, oh, okay, I know what this is about, but I also love this, and I can hold it in my hand. Same thing with like an action figure, or, a statue or something, a collectible, one of those clown boxes type of things. You know what I mean? It's nice to have something physical that's like, okay, I have the memory of seeing this film. So
Yeah, from I think the second scene, maybe that the music box was shown, Brandon immediately went, "I want one of those."
yeah. Yeah.
well, hopefully we'll get it to you.
Yeah. That'd be so
Cool.
awesome. So we have, just to kind of get to like the wrap up point here, we kind of have 4 bonus personal questions for each of you to answer, if that's okay. Answer
Okay.
separately. If you're not comfortable answering these, we can always edit them out, but they're basically just, kind of personal, like, questions on what you think of certain things. We ask every guest this. So, our first question is, what does a day in the life look like for you both, and what do you do for personal fun?
Well, after the nookie, what happens?
If I'm so lucky.
First thing, we have our meeting.
Well, you sometimes get up so early. Sometimes this girl's up at like 4:35, doing
Journaling,
meditating,
journaling
journaling.
out.
And then I try to sleep. If I can sleep, I'll sleep as long as possible,
Oh, yeah.
especially right
Just
now,
lately.
just on the weekend.
Yeah.
But I will often wake up early too, like 5:30, and start writing. And then I just want to get outside. We live in North Vancouver, where I can ski and hike and mountain bike.
Mhm.
This is why I'm
Full
looking at the
plunge.
outside right now. I'm looking at
Right.
butterflies
It's
flying.
beautiful outside right now, guys. It's insane.
Um,
But
but we like to play a lot. We go mountain
we
biking,
also have a 10-year-old that we have to get to school
and
and
an
make lunch.
18-year-old that is living in our basement.
Living, it's a dream. It's a dream. He's
Oh,
living in
yeah.
our basement.
Yes, and we try to do what we need to do. Right now, it's been a lot of work, but
It's crazy because auditions are popping up for me, and then he helps me with that, or Noah helps me with that. And you know how it is now. You have to film it yourself.
Yep.
And then send it in. And so, yeah, we have that, and then class, and then I
and
don't know, friends.
cook dinner
What
and
are those friends? Have
Clean the house.
we been in a while?
I know.
Oh, we got to see.
Wait,
We've been so busy.
Yeah. Rightful
It's
so.
been a running.
We're just trying to keep up right now.
Yeah, it's been running.
But thank you for asking that. You're making me feel like I got to get out and go mountain biking now.
Got to go finish that audition.
So people come up to you both, like, and say, hey, I'm such a huge fan. You're my hero, or your work is like my pop culture religion. So if you will, like, is there anything, any IP, any music, any, TV shows, whatever, like, what is it that you're a massive fan of in that regard? Like, what would you like go up to someone and say, oh my God, your work is my favorite? Like, what is that to both of you?
Well, I think some of these people we've seen, which is weird. I will say I have not met Sam Raimi, and I would love to meet Sam Raimi, because Evil Dead 2, especially.
Yeah.
And Army of Darkness was like my fun time in college, like going home and just watching that after going to a party or something. But the other one that's really obvious that we did get to meet is Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
I mean, I love his horror type of horror movie, if you will. Like, if you go from Jaws to Poltergeist, I mean, Jaws especially. Like, I know it's his first movie, but it was so groundbreaking. It kind of revitalized horror and gave it some chops, if you will, some teeth. And then obviously everything he's done from there is just such an incredible director of all time. Really the greatest of all time. Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks was cool to meet. Both times I was pretty speechless.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah. But I watched him as a kid on Bosom Buddies, like, and he was just, and Big is a favorite movie of ours. And what?
Bill Murray. I got to say Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I met him.
So,
too.
because I gravitate as much toward the comedy part.
Yeah.
And Bill Murray, as a kid, I just watched everything he did and was just laughing my butt off all the time.
Yeah.
With Harold Ramis, I can't meet him anymore. God bless Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, and I'm quite diverse with my love of filmmaking.
Yeah.
So James Cameron too, man. Like, he's made some things that just boggle my mind that anybody can do in film.
Sure.
Some of the greatest action films of all time. So there's lots of people that I admire. I mean, there really are. I'm excited to just see Josh Rubin. He's coming to my LA premiere.
Oh, awesome.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And Chris Landon, who I've just met with and is coming to the LA premiere.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got to ask before we go on to the next question. So you mentioned being an Evil Dead fan. Were you a fan of Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I was. It's hard for me to get, like, I'm more of a guy that likes the original thing more. And I know Evil Dead, there was the Evil Dead, but Evil Dead 2, I feel like it was the original.
Yeah.
And I don't fall in love as much with the spinoffs.
Yeah.
I apologize. Did you love it?
I liked the first season of it. I feel like the first season really explained it a little bit more. Everything with Ruby and just kind of the creation of the book, it made more sense to me. I like the movies, but for the season 1, I think is my favorite out of that. And plus, a lot of my friends are in it, because New Zealand friends, they shot that there, and it's it taking place in Michigan, where I'm from, is really awesome too. And so, but yeah, I love the entire franchise. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was more of like a historical artifact to me. And sometimes I don't like to mess it up.
Yeah.
Too much. It was like, this was a part of my youth. And I don't know. And some people want so many sequels, and me, I've yet to make a sequel. So
Yeah.
I have to rev up those gears to get into Clown and Cornfield.
I was going to ask you about that because I know that there's, I think, 2 other books. And if this goes, well enough and it can get picked up, is there talk of the other 2 books coming out?
Well, how the bean counters work at the studio. They get very excited if they can make money. So if you love it, go see it in the theater. And then if they want to do it, it's up to the financiers. I'm game because I love my cast. I love the books. I think Adam Caesar's great. I think there should be a sequel to this. I think it's kind of lined up for it. But we got to see how it does just this coming weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be seeing it in theater. So.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You want to ask the last 2 questions?
Yeah, so this one may kind of stick out like a sore thumb for you guys, but we asked this because it's been a topic that we've talked about, but then we've also asked others that we've interviewed. When it comes to paranormal, so you guys are you're known more for like the slasher side of things, but the paranormal, the ghosts, the aliens, things like that. What's your take on if there's any truth behind it?
Yeah.
Is the truth really out there?
And just to make you feel a little more comfortable about it, we're divided.
We are divided.
She believes in paranormal and ghosts. I don't really. I'm not saying it's not real, but I don't particularly take a belief in it.
Yeah. And I really think that the universe is so big, we can't be the only ones.
Sure.
Well, you're bearing the lead. You're saving the best for last here. Why don't you go first?
Okay. So I do think, I definitely believe in the paranormal. I had to close my mind off to it because it was too scary for me.
Sure.
Mhm.
So I would have things that would happen. Like I've had like a cup like this, like fall and then balance kind of like this, like
Mhm.
at 2 in the morning, like and just weird, like on my desk and stuff. And where I would feel like, especially after I had uh Noah. Do you remember where I was like, there's like a cold body
Oh,
in the
yeah.
bed next to me, honey?
That's so
Oh,
creepy.
wow.
There's a cold body. I feel like this cold body, and he's looking at me like,
That stuff creeps me out.
yeah.
That-
Or my dog would wake me up at 2 in the morning and just stare at me, and like he doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Just like, oh my gosh. But I finally just said, you know what, you guys, I saged the house,
yeah.
and I was like, I don't want you guys visiting. Don't come around. I'm too busy being a mom.
Well, that's
Uh,
what
like,
they do, right?
Can't deal with that
Right.
stuff, guys. Go to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I will say that my opinion has changed over time, that I would have been more of an empiricist, like in my early 20s. And I thought, if some things exist, you have to prove it to me.
Yep.
But now I also know just how little we know
About anything.
about anything.
Yeah.
And studying at least a little bit about quantum mechanics and
Sure.
quantum theory and stuff makes me realize how unbelievably absurd our universe is, and that we just have so little grasp on anything, that I'm more tend toward the idea that a spiritual realm exists for sure. Actually, I don't just tend toward it. I now like kind of rely on it, and I find that it gives me a sense of strength.
It does for me too now. Now that you say, you know what, when I'm having a hard time, I go and I ask, I ask
Somebody that you,
somebody
yeah.
that has passed on to the other side that's been really close to me, what can you help me with this? Or I will think of somebody at a certain moment, and I'll feel that they're in the room with me. And I'll be like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
but
may seem weird that we believe in that now in our culture, but I think it's weird that we don't believe in it, because every culture that comes before us, every human culture had like rites of passage of death to the afterworld. And I think we've kind of cut ourselves off from a spiritual realm, and it's too bad, because it's a part that makes death less scary
Yep.
and makes life less anxious because of that. All these things. But it gives me a sense of strength to be like, yeah, that exists. I'm going to try to work it in my favor.
yeah, absolutely. I very much believe that we're a spiritual being having a human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just hosting this body.
Absolutely.
And that's not like body snatchers, because that's a whole.
No, I'm really snatch this body up. Yeah.
Well, we kind of touched on it, but the last and final question, and again, if it's too personal, we can always edit. What do you think is the afterlife for our spiritual being?
Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think I don't know. I hate to tell you.
Sure.
I think I'm okay with not knowing this one. But I do think there's probably something that we just can't possibly understand.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably this feeling of things are okay. Like the last moment, I know that there's this thing right before humans die, and unfortunately, for better or worse, I've seen a few people die. There's a thing called agonal respiration, but not in my hands.
Oh.
Not in my hands. There's a thing called agonal respiration, where people will be like barely breathing, and then, and that's their last thing.
Yeah.
And it is so much like surprise, and it's so much like joy, but relief, that I feel like it's absolution. It's just, I can't believe it's if you disintegrated into oneness with the universe all at once, when you were just like, I can't believe this is what it is.
Yeah.
It's so
And it
so
takes
cool,
you
huh?
in all its fullness, and you just gasp at the awesomeness right before. And yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like I have such a interesting time concentrating, and sometimes my attention will be pulled here or there or here. And then all of a sudden, I think when you pass on, you're just with everything
Yeah.
kind of thing.
We agree.
Well, I think that's pretty much all we had for today. Really appreciate you guys, like I said, taking time out of your crazy busy schedules. I know you've got a lot going on right now. So really just thank you for coming on the show and just having a chat with us.
Brandon, thank you for everything.
Yeah.
You've always been a rock in my world, and I really appreciate you. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You and
Kind of a good guy. Hi.
I'm all right.
Thank you.
It's all right.
He's all right. Katie, thank you as well. It's been great talking to you guys.
Yeah.
nice.
So,
To know you better has been lovely.
all right, guys. Well, that was our interview with Eli and Sasha Craig. Great couple.
Yeah.
I loved every second of talking with them. It was great to get to know them a little bit more.
Yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed it as well.
You know, my favorite thing in that was just seeing the dynamic between the two of them. You can tell they're a very happy couple. It looks
Loving.
like they've got a great family. We talked a little bit
Proud
about
parents.
proud parents. We talked a little bit about being a family in the business, and do they worry about nepotism and such. So it's great that that whole family I really had has come together, and they support each other and they work, but also they stand on their own merits as their own achievements. So did not know that Eli's grandma was in the business. Never should have researched that a little bit more, but it's just a generational thing. And now their son is getting into acting, with this being his first film. So
If you've seen our review of Tucker and Dale versus Evil, we spoke about our opinions on nepotism. So it was interesting and kind of validating to hear his side.
Yeah.
Being an insider with it. Not only is he a child of an actress, but he also has his kids coming up in this and having an interest as well.
yeah, then his wife's in the business, which a lot of actors and actresses, their spouses aren't involved in, and they're usually doing something else or such. But it's nice to see that both of them in the field. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the field. Get it?
Yeah.
Fun. Anyway.
Ah.
Well, I'm so glad you guys are still with us and that you've hopefully enjoyed the interview as much as we did.
you can find us on our socials. We're on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, obviously you already know where we're at. But we're on all podcast networks. You can also find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. Instagram, we have X, Twitter, and X, Threads, and Blue Sky that we're probably not going to be using much any longer. But feel free to send us an email. The couple that
And
slays.
if you're on the TikTok.
Yes, I'm sorry. Katie runs the TikTok. Katie, that's her bag. I'm not really into TikTok. So, and as always, feel free to like, subscribe, share. It doesn't cost a thing to do that. So, but we're on Patreon too. If you want to get back to the channel, we'd love that. I think that's about it. So, for the couple that slays together, I'm Brandon.
I'm Katie. And until next time, enjoy the horror.
And don't fuck with friendo.
Yeah, friendo don't like to be fucked with.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
We're the couple that slays together.